Yes.
All right, welcome everybody to, the February 3rd, 2025 special meeting, for budget review. Apologize for the short delay as we, were having a few technical, issues, but, they seem to be addressed by now. So, we always like to start off acknowledging that, so this afternoon, we're gathered on Treaty 5 territory, which is the ancestral lands of our neighbors of Alaska Cree Nation, as well as many other Indigenous people, and as a homeland of the Manitoba Métis. With that, I'll call the meeting to order. Somebody should have a resolution to adopt the agenda.
There's any additions? Moved by myself, second by Councilor Allen, was all the agenda to be adopted as presented.
Just as a roll call, we did this, Councillor Forster has sent his regrets. Call the question, all in favor? That's nobody against. So this meeting tonight is to, for those out in viewing land, is to continue our budget deliberations as we prepare for the 2025 budgets. And what's going on in the world today? I thought it would be prudent to just make a few comments to everybody with regards to how we're approaching the budget. Our future costs and impacts on the community and our businesses locally and across Canada are very unknown right now, and it's going to be very hard for us to predict fixed costs and where we're going to go. And I think that uncertainty really sort of makes us sort of step back for a second and make sure that we've really had a hard look at our budget and our spending that we're proposing this year. And what I'm suggesting is the things that we're seeing as discretionary or things that we're seeing are nice to have, some improvements. There's not immediate impact to residents or improved services or quick paybacks. I really believe we need to have a serious look at that before we move forward. With the impacts that are going to have on our community members if these things go forward, and again, nobody really knows, so how the next few months play out. I think it's you know, it would be irresponsible for us to be bringing forward spending that's not really as tight as possible. And so, you know, what I would suggest that our staff are looking at are sort of high value investments to the municipality, things that are going to give us quick paybacks on that our municipality is going to see, whether it's in service delivery, but really tangible benefits for the community. So so with that, I'm not sure, you know, if we're even in a position to discuss that yet, but I think we need to really keep the future in mind here today. And it's, I know many of our businesses and some of our major businesses are going to be under serious financial constraints. So I would just want to start with that opening, and I would lay it to council if anybody has anything else to add.
We started out saying that we want to try and keep the budgets as low as possible, and this just has another area to it. The tariffs, it's going to go right down for a month, but that's, I think, do business the best we can, be prudent on our spending and do what has to be done, and we can put something down the road a little bit, so we're in a mind position where we know exactly where we are, then that's what we do.
So I'll ask yourself, or does anybody else have anything? Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Agree. Yeah, totally.
Anybody else have anything down? Sorry. I guess I'll ask Laura, like, I guess the budgets that were being presented so far, I don't want to waste a bunch of time, but have we really had that really hard look at the actual requests And so that, you know, I don't wanna sit in here and look at us pick apart a bunch of stuff that we haven't really given the staff an opportunity to bring it to the table that way. And maybe we can ask if we haven't done that, if we could sort of carve some of that out so that there's visibility on what we see as a discretionary spend versus a necessity.
I would make the recommendation that at this time we just adjourn the meeting and that our management team go back to having a few meetings with regards to our discretionary spending and carve some of that out. Right now, it's all the asks that we were wanting being presented to council, and given the situation that's going on, I believe that we should go back to the drawing board.
At the same time, as much as I agree with Laura, I think the other departments that did get a chance to present their kind of their wish list and their hopes and visions of their departments, we should hear everybody's for us to sift through. It's up to us. It just becomes another tool, right, to take into account. Kind of puts public works and maintenance in a position and recreation in a position of not getting to get their voice heard. And I think it's only fair that they be heard the same way the first few did.
And it's not that those discretionary spends can't be heard, but in a different way, let's say, so that they're being carved out, like the mayor had said, so that you can see the difference between what we absolutely need to operate and what are our wish lists in a sense.
That's our next step, is it not? Really, kind of?
It is, but given what's going on with the US, this is gonna change. I believe it's gonna change the budget substantially. What we have to present tonight would be honestly just not even viable to present. We're gonna have to go through and see what materials, what supplies, we're gonna be subject to 25% tariffs, and it's gonna be big changes to the budget. So what we present tonight for a lot of the just regular operations is gonna be meaningless.
What I look at is those nice growth, you know, we want to see. So when I see manning requests, you know, if that's something that can wait, then I would say, although it might be a good idea, it's probably a cost that we can't incur this year right up front. You know, and there's a few other things like that. I also believe that on the capital front, I think we need to see an actual list of capital that shows the actual items that we're purchasing. And so that we can have, as councillor managers mentioned, not to put it on, but at least let us see it where it is so we can take it off and not have it as a decision at the administration level, because that's our call and our responsibility. But I also believe that if we're just going to sit here and talk about high hopes, you know, I'm not sure that we can move forward with it the way it is today.
Agreed.
It's the way both Sam and Joe Mark feel too. Yeah.
I think there's a lot of unknowns with the tariffs in terms of where it's gonna hit us the hardest. So I think that's a huge unknown in terms of some of our products that get coming into. We're getting rid of obsolete stuff. We can turn our budget upside down. That should
Sorry, councillor.
So the announcement a while ago, the tariffs are put off for a month. So we're going to go through the process that you are recommending, and then a month from now, they're going to give no tariffs. They're going to throw everything back on the table again. I would say, hear what the presentations are. As the council manager said, we're not coming to everything tonight, but we can get the overview of what your vision was. That might very well still be valid in a month from now if things resolve and there's no tariffs.
Sure.
I would say proceed as we're going, but on our second visit now, when we come back with your budgets, then we're going to be having a call it plan B. Here's what we have to do. Either way, I think the whole threat of the tariffs is probably going to make us do business better and be more prudent on how we spend money. Not that we aren't already, but it's going to probably just enhance that. So I would say we proceed with what we're doing with the rest of the departments and,
Sure.
follow it through.
Yeah. Okay.
Fine, just.
So there we go, let's do it then.
Other than like getting out of the meeting.
That's what Laura wanted.
Okay, so we'll start with John, he will go ahead and start with Kelsey Recreation.
Okay, starting with our future initiatives, some things we identified in our SWOT analysis. One of the big things is keeping up with the grass cutting, especially in the spring, going into the summer. We've included in our budget, new mowers and our capital projects, and we've accounted for some additional hedge trimmers. We also budgeted for extra staff in the maintenance side and the green team to double up on that side. With the continued effort to upgrade our ball diamonds.
Just before you go there, Joe.
Yeah.
I just got a quick question with regards to that. So what does that mean? Like, how much does that cost to have the new equipment and the new people, and how many people, and like, what is that?
So we doubled, the request to double our green team. We had 5 last year, so we're gonna have 10. So we had 2 teams almost. The cost of that, I believe, will break down in the next snapshot. So when I get to it. And the wages. So there's a difference here. Actually, if you, I will cross that path when we go to the next slide. Like, if you can wait till that.
Yeah, I can.
The continuing effort to upgrade our ball diamonds, infill materials and bleachers and ball diamonds that are out of date. The turf line install and stadium lighting in 2024 was spruced up the area and has other benefits as well as in terms of safety, work efficiency for our employees in terms of not having to do the foul lines anymore, just have to do the lines in the infield. And then the infill material project included in our capital project for the plan in 2025, along with the dugouts. Vandalism was an issue last year, in particular with spray paint getting tagged on different areas of the town, especially the park benches. So we currently have a product in test phase that we applied at the end of the season on our benches that we haven't been able to they haven't been tagged since the coating's been applied. So we're not sure how that holds up, but we're hoping that if it does get tagged, that cleanup on that is a lot easier than it has been in the past where we've had to repaint over. So we're looking at that to see how that works and maybe include that in several other areas where concrete is getting tagged. Not having enough volunteers or groups that contribute to the barrier-free facilities like our outdoor rink and skate park. We're looking at establishing volunteer groups and engage community involvement with respect to partnering with our staff. So meaning that our staff will assist and do the big stuff like such as the ODR, doing the flooding, removal of big snowfalls. But we'll have some other committees kind of run and organize to have small snowfalls during the week, such as like the Blizzard, the Paul Minor Hockey, and then some members from Rotary to help out with shoveling the rink as well. So we're looking to start that in the future here.
Just on that, if community members want to volunteer to do that, they just call you.
Yeah, well, actually, so right now I'm trying to organize ahead from the Blizzard, from Rotary, and then from the Pond Miner, and then from that, there'd be someone that in that committee that's going to organize that kind of week to week. So maybe like you call that guy's gonna, okay, this group, they have it this week, they're gonna go do it this week. We'll provide the shovels and whatnot, and we'll come in and grab those, do a quick scrape, and then they're done. But whenever there's a big snowfall, like this past weekend or something, that's gonna be us. We'll do that. We'll take care of it, make sure it gets out. But the small snowfalls that we don't have as much time for, or we're busy for that, that'll be the community. So it'll be more of a collaborative effort and keep the community involved in. I think also good publicity for some groups like the Blizzard.
So for the spray painting, the vandalism, you said you have a test place, but you haven't had a chance to see how well it works yet?
Yeah, because no one else has tagged it since we've applied the coating.
So we can't tag it and see how?
We can, yeah. No one wants to do it, but, yeah, we could do that.
We didn't expect it to go this long without getting tagged.
Yeah, I actually expected it as soon as it happened, that it was gonna get taken and it didn't, so. better for our community that it didn't, but yes, we theoretically tested ourselves. And then obviously in the winter, it's not, probably not gonna get that much, so
No,
we'll wait till the spring to see if that works out.
Okay.
Yeah. Moving on to our next slide. You'll see the mill rates have increased by 1.24, and going into the next slide, we'll have a breakdown of why that's happening. Looking at our wages first, which also includes our benefits for employees, you can account the increase to budgeting for our green team. So I've asked for extra green team members, 5 of those, and then there's actually 2 more, I believe, towards the public works side. So a total of 7 increased members for that employees, and then our yearly 3% wage increase. So I think you'll see there, Andre, the difference in the budget for those 2, for that item.
Yeah, I was just curious what the green team alone was. That,
I don't have that breakdown right in front of me.
Yeah. and then any new employees, because when I look at the wages actual versus our budget this year, we're, $100,000 over budget as well. And then when I look at, we're asking, sort of maintain what we have today. So I was just trying to understand how that works.
I believe too, the benefits are included in this,
Yeah,
in this line, so it's not just 100,000 in wages.
yeah, no, I understand that, but I'm just comparing apples to apples. I'm
Yeah,
assuming.
I could get, I know Kelsey put in for the green team, so I can get the exact number what that would be, and I can give that to you.
But you know what I'm asking, so if you look at 2024's budget was 904,000, we spent $100,000 more than our budget in 2024. And we're asking for 5 extra people in 2025, that's what you mentioned.
Right.
But your budget for 2025 is very close to your actuals in 2024. So I'm just trying to understand how that cost makeup on wages are, so that I can just, if we decided tomorrow that we don't want to add 5 green team,
Right.
because we don't want to spend the money because we don't see the value, then I don't understand why we spent $100,000 more against our budget than we actually had.
Or to add, and also to add to that, could that $100,000 have been due to overtime from shortage of staff?
Could be, yeah.
Could be, yeah,
We just don't know, right?
Yeah.
I'd have to look into that deeper. I don't look at the OT very much, and I'm getting pretty familiar with that, but don't really know how to navigate through it for the overtime, so that'll be something I have to look into again.
So we could just get a breakdown, I think. I'm hoping, speaking for all council, we're probably looking for a breakdown of all wages in all departments.
I can get that to you. Moving on to the capital portion, of that 557,482,000, that is coming from grant funding, while $75,000 of differences from the general operations.
So that's the funding for the dugouts and the field.
That's basically all the.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's. So if we don't get a grant, then we wouldn't spend spending. If we get a grant, then our spend is only what? 87,000 or.
Yeah, roughly that, less than. On to our utility. Which also loops in hydro and propane. There's several leaks fixed with our water fountains, eye wash stations and toilets. We've replaced all our water fountains with updated bottle fillers, which have been used very well. And then also looped in with this line is their insurance, which has increased by 10%. I believe that's in our control, so that would explain our increase there. Moving on to the materials and program supplies, there was a request for flower pots. Flowers obviously at our parks and playgrounds, so we've accommodated that for the increase. The Moffett, so this will be actually the last year that will be coming through us. It's being handed over to the Pod Tri Community Foundation, so that line will probably be gone after this year, and will be handed over to that organization. They'll be handling it. We might have some involvement in it, but it will be fairly minimal.
Why, what is that? That's,
It's just the direction that the Winnipeg Foundation moved. It was always supposed to go to that. I
Oh,
think
good.
when we were at that one
Yeah.
meeting last year, they kind of indicated it at that time. Yeah. We had a feel for that was coming, so.
yeah, good.
Outside contracts, that increase is due to the asbestos inventory. The contract, R&M. Our bird condenser had a fan repair for 95,000, Simcoe startup 3,500, and our plant restart and repairs were upwards near 10,000. There's an HVAC repair also for 6,000. Bryant piping repair for 3,400, and a mag lock repair just under $1,000 that accounts for that. Equipment repairs and the maintenance. Our lots of aging equipment, but specifically with our heaters in the arena, we just replaced Sexton G's which cost us $9,000, 2-heater replacement in that section. The recommendation from the Jay Hansen, they would like to see 1 or 2 redone every year, as all the other ones are near the end of its life. So we should be replacing 1 or 2 every season. So we're looking to do that as well.
Is there any budget proposal to replace the outdated, obsolete cell phone repeaters or whatever you call them now, legal feeders?
It's not in my plan, but it's something I can definitely
Oh, yeah.
include.
It's part of our capital. Yeah.
It is,
Yeah.
okay, you have it. So on his side.
Okay.
Office supplies and equipment. This also loops in our training and advertising, so there's some bank charges that was accounted for that, but mostly the $17,000 was budgeted towards arena staff training. We lost 2 arena operators in training in 2024, so he actually didn't get to use a lot of that budget.
And I heard that the regulation has actually changed. I'm waiting to get some details on it, but they derated all of the boilers across Manitoba, I believe, and that the arena operator will only need a 5th class, and you only need 1, and he can be the person in charge of the entire plant. And everybody else can just work.
That would be a big difference.
So I'm waiting to get the regulation, and I'll send it to you guys.
Then do you know when that's actually rolling out?
It's already happened, I guess, from my understanding. I just found out about it on Saturday.
Okay.
The last letter we received, the government was talking at potentially the spring rolling out. So
Okay, maybe,
so
yeah.
that's good to hear if they're on track, because it's still there. It's great to hear.
Yeah, I haven't got anything official, but that's what I was told.
Good news. Transfer to reserves, that just solely increased due to our point of sale system. It tracks better, make sure we get all of our fees that weren't being coded properly the last few years with the old system. Chemicals. We had some coding error where a lot of our chemicals were not being put towards inventory, and they were coded right to the pool right away. So we have a lot of stock that is in the green shed at the garage. Calcium hypochlorite, calcium chloride, chlorinated shock sodium, and trisulfate was coded to the pool instead of just the inventory when play is taking them out as we use them.
Just a quick question, just a comment on the chemicals, probably pertain to the water treatment plant as well. If the tariffs go through or they don't go through, can you buy some of that stuff ahead of time? Like, we've got a window here that if it's bought in the States, if it's subject to tariffs, we could get it ahead of time.
We'll definitely have to dive into some of our chemical reasons we are in Canada, so we have to see exactly where they're all coming from. But it's a good idea to get ahead of it for sure.
I guess too, we should track actually where it's coming from. That might be an issue too. Moving on to our next slide, Wellness Center. So within our SWOT analysis, yearly we upgrade our facility with equipment. This is coming down the pipe right away. Actually, I have Ed in the process of getting our new equipment. But we have continued effort here to provide state-of-the-art fitness equipment that's up to date and can be used by all types of fitness levels. These upgrades are accounted for in the financial budget as a capital item. Personal training shortage, so extra trainers were budgeted in 2025. Or sorry, in 2024, we'll soon have 3 additional trainers available in late January 2025, which is right now. 2 of them actually have been certified now, one's almost done. And I've been able to offload over a dozen clients to the 2 of them, which has helped tremendously with the workload I've had.
So that kind of your ultimate goal to,
I don't want to give everyone away, especially this guy here, but no, the idea is to offload, like I had quite a waiting list, so now that I don't have that, I'm not pressured to take on more. And I don't, like what I have right now is pretty good, so if I can balance that between what I'm doing with maintenance and recreation, and
I'm just thinking ahead, like, what's our best use for you and your job? Is it to do training or?
depends on who you ask, I guess.
We'll ask you.
Yeah. Obviously, that's my passion. That's what I went to university for. That's why I got involved with the town. So, like I said, it depends on who you ask what it's best for. I'd like to be involved in that area. Obviously, because it's what I like to do. It's what I love to do. Yeah. So there's people there that I help and have made a difference in their lives. I'd like to continue to do that. Limited ability to perform routine maintenance at our facility due to the extreme height of our ceilings and lights. The purchase of proper equipment will alleviate this issue not only for our building, but also for the arena. This capital item, the scissor lift has been accounted for, I believe, in the budget. That side.
So what is that?
So there was a discussion that we have to come back, the one that we presented in our pre-capital, information may not fit the totality of the council or what our needs would be, so, we come back with a different proposal.
What is it?
Scissor lift or this, I think we used maybe the wrong terminology for pre-capital discussion, but, yeah.
How many times in 2024 did we rent?
I can see at least 3 or 4 times at least.
What does it cost us?
Well, depending on the unit we rent, anywhere from 600 to 800 a day. Yeah. That's the one that really absolutely.
The issue not having one there is like, if I have something as simple as one light bulb out in my facility, or if it's flickering, and we don't have the ability to isolate that and just turn it off, I can't change that light bulb until we get a scissor lift in the building and I'll get the complaint constantly, and my response is like, we're trying to be financially, fiscally responsible and not just get a scissor lift just to change one light bulb. So that's a tough sell to customers. Didn't leave that secret like a month or whatever. So if there's something I can do about it, I'll shut the light off somehow and keep it dark, but difficult. But, the parking lot upgrade, this upgrade has been accounted for in the 2025 budget as a capital item that coincides with the public works project for paving.
So that's a 2024 carryover money, right?
Yes, some of the dollars are carried forward.
And moving over to the next page there, 44,000, but increase indicated 0.21 mils. And looking at the snapshot in one center, starting with the wages. Here. So the increase in wages is due to the 2 to 3 new personal trainers, plus the 3% yearly wage increase. Our utilities are tracking the budget.
Are the new trainers full-time employees?
Not currently.
Yeah. No, will they be?
We'd like them to be, but there's a bit of a catch-22 in that situation where if they're full-time, they can only train on their shift.
But that's not, then obviously not enough money to capture 3 full-time employees. Because that's only, like the pay raise is 14,000 if you did 3%, of what the actuals was last year. And you're only budgeting 511,000, we added 3 new employees. 30 grand.
It accounts for the pay raise and then what we project them to train for off their shift is what it is. So it's not 3 full-time employees, sorry, if that's what you're thinking.
So this is just the extra that they would get paid, not, they're already employees?
They're already.
Oh,
employees.
okay.
Yes, sorry, my bad, yeah, so they're already
I
employees.
thought there was 3 new employees.
No,
Okay,
just new trainers.
yeah,
So they're already existing.
So they would work a regular shift and then possibly come back in the evening to do training time as well?
Yes, as long as, so it depends on what their, so if they worked a 6-hour shift on the weekend,
Yeah.
they can work another 2 hours in personal training after. shift.
Okay,
If they
Okay.
worked an 8-hour shift already, they can't come and do it.
oh, okay, so it's like,
Yeah, so
That's
usually
around
what's happening is, for example, personal training will work Tuesday, Thursday, and 8-hour shift both days. But on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, they're picking up personal training during those days. And then they'll log their hours as trainers then.
okay,
At the same time, when they're training on Tuesday, Thursday on the morning, they'll have training sessions during that shift as well, where they'll get their training rate then. And their actual level 1 first facility, level 2 facility monitor rate. On the other hours.
okay, I understand that.
So we've kind of a calculation of what we estimate them to do for the year.
one of the things I would ask is that when we're adding these new services, that we get an actual, that I'm assuming that the revenues that they're projecting to is getting backed out of the overall cost of the. So we've got 3 new trainers, they're taking on all this training, but we're also earning money that's coming in, so. Does that all get subtracted out and balanced off so that we know? You know, if it's $30,000, it's really only $10,000 because we earned 20,000 back. So we need to make sure. When we see the budgets the next time, we also see the revenues that the community is generating as well with all these new services. And they should be increasing.
How many clients do we service right now? Ballpark to buy?
Yeah, it just depends on, like, some guys only go once a week, or some are 2 or 3 a week. I don't currently have anyone that goes 5, I have one that goes 4, 2 that goes 4, sorry.
I was thinking with, 3 trainers and yourself, about maybe, they're in hundreds or something.
Oh, no. We're really towards.
It'd be nice in Samara to see the revenue stream from that, just.
Yeah. A lot easier to do with our new point of sale system too, like. That would be. Moving on here, our outside contracts, the asbestos inventory is included that. And then I also included rental of scissor lifts for cleaning out high reach areas for the yearly, so just in case Sam's product isn't.
So just a quick question on that asbestos inventories that are twice now. So is that a community project that we're doing for all the facilities? And that's the project just divided up amongst all? So what's the total cost of that project?
I don't have it in front of me, sorry.
But that'll be on a list somewhere for us to see it as a whole number after.
Good there. Office supplies and equipment also included in this line item is travel and training and advertising. So office supplies increased due to the purchase of chairs for our lobby and Sway Wellness Center. That was just under $2,500 for those chairs. Also the training that we were expecting to do with our personal trainers was originally planned to be off-site, so we were thinking to send them away. It ended up being on-site, which saved us a lot of money. We didn't have to send anyone away. Even the testing was done virtual. And one was proctored as well, so.
We should change the name on that category to include training in it so that it's clear.
I think that is on its own line, actually, the training, it's just included.
Oh, you just grouped it in?
Yeah, yes.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, just so somebody else was, if somebody just picked this up, they would think,
Yeah, no,
office and supplies, holy smokes, you guys, how much office and supplies you guys buy?
not,
We're just trying to keep the number of lines on the slide, show them the minimal so that it
Yeah.
wasn't too complex.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
the
30,000 was the specific total of the project.
Okay,
materials and supplies, we did upholstery last year. On both half of our equipment, we'll need to do the other half this year, and then we should be good for 2 to 3 years again now. And then there was a fuel pump in there that I looked at that cost us, upwards of $2,500. That increased their budget there. Transfer to reserves again, the increase is completely due to our new point of sale system. It just does such a great job of tracking our extra fees for non-residents, and for equipment fees.
so transfers the reserves, is that transfer to our savings accounts or do?
I think this one would be, because it's the wellness center, it'd be the wellness reserve account that gets put back towards the spending towards our equipment. If I'm not mistaken.
So how does the point of sales thing link to that?
So when you sign up as a member, you pay a membership fee, a facility fee. That
Mhm.
facility fee goes directly to the reserve.
Okay,
Yeah, and then same with when you rent the ice, there's a facility fee. I don't remember what it costs, maybe say it's $10, that $10 goes directly. So in our old system, these fees would have to be put in manually by the cashier. And it wouldn't always be done, and it's just human error, so they would forget to do it. Non-residents, so if you're a non-resident, say you live at Clearwater Lake, not on town property, you register as a member, there's a non-resident fee. So when you sign up as a non-resident, you put in your address and stuff. Or sorry, our staff puts in your profile, you're automatically tagged as a non-resident, that non-resident fee automatically goes into a reserve. Where in the past, that non-resident fee, someone can come in and we could forget to put them on. None of that's getting forgotten.
what is the revenue from our I would like to see that too.
I can give that to you. I'd have to pull it up on our system, but wouldn't be hard to do. I could probably do it.
No, I don't need it right now, but the next time as a revenue stream, we should actually see what that actually is.
I can show that to you.
Joe, does that get collected through the other organizations too, though, or just at the wellness center? So say, somebody from minor hockey, lives at wherever, Clearwater Lake.
Yeah, and they sign up, if they're signing up for minor hockey?
Yeah, they just sign up for minor hockey.
I think they're supposed to be.
Well, this,
I couldn't tell you if they are, or if it's built into their fees, I'm not sure.
Is minor hockey remitting a fee?
They are, but I believe in the past they have.
yeah, we should, get an understanding on that. I know
I
the
just don't know how
council,
to, yeah,
we know council has talked about everybody that enjoys this great community of the paw should have to pay fees, municipal fees if they are going to participate, especially using our facilities.
right.
And so the easy part is when you sign up to be a member where it's more structured, but how do you,
Like the Paul Miners themselves, they pay a fee on their ice. So indirectly, they're paying a non-resident fee.
but I think all of the members pay, all the minor hockey members pay the same fee, don't they?
They do,
Yeah,
so they're equally sharing that cost.
so they're subsidizing somebody that lives at the lake.
Correct.
Not sure that's what
Yeah.
I think there should probably likely be an additional fee on top of that.
That was going to be implemented a number of years ago, and I think because of the uproar at the time, it kind of got pushed off to the side and using the argument you're using, whereas if you're non-resident, much the same as your library. You pay, you're a town, you don't have to pay it. I don't think you have to pay it, remember, but if you're a non-resident, you pay. Yeah, we have an agreement with the RM that RM residents don't have to pay the RM.
Yeah.
It's a service, facility, whatever it is, they're using it. You should go in one form or another.
I was the president of minor hockey when we were trying to get that through. And it was, like you said, it was very painful to try to
Was it like that prior to the years past, like before?
No, that it came in around that time.
But even with Slow Pitch at one time, like there was a non-resident fee for the teams, like,
Was it for the team or the individual registering for the?
well, and that's where it got confusing.
Yeah,
Because sometimes you would have like 5 people on a team and then each person was expected to pay that additional $150 because that's what it was then. And then it's like, well, why can't you just make one fee for the team instead of each individual, like, and I don't know where it's at anymore, but this was like 10 years back in time. It was getting quite expensive to play Slow Pitch, but I 100% agree that non-residents needs to have something in there.
yeah, actually, I have a meeting with the online right after this anyway, so. Moving on to the last one, the cost of goods sold, so that's strictly our apparel. It's actually tracking with budget, the number there is not accurate. The apparel is tracking on it, like we found in the unit. Moving on, oh, is that the last one?
Yep.
Is that the last one? Well, you guys are painful? No.
Let's do it again then.
We can do it again.
So just one last question I had, is the weed control project that we started last year, is that with you or with Sam? Sam? Okay.
The other,
Okay.
Oh, thank God. No,
that all like question.
Thanks, John.
yeah, Rob.
I guess if anybody has any other questions as they may be thinking, maybe we can direct them to, you can email them to Laura and then she can actually put them all into it. She can take care of them from there, so you forget if you remember something. Hey, Joe Mar, just one quick, I just remembered something I was gonna ask you. So if you get these groups together
Yeah.
that sort of adopt the park, sort of those type of things, would you reduce the number of green team members you would hire?
I'm not sure if that would, I don't think so.
No,
No, I mean, if I found that I needed to for 2026, then yes,
yeah,
but I'd like to see how that works.
yeah, for sure. Neutral numbers.
So was that program more directed to just snow removal then?
Pardon?
Was that program more directed towards snow removal for the outdoor range?
No, it actually expands more to also to like the ballparks and.
Okay.
Yeah, so different groups for kind of those things, so array, ballpark, even the skate park.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Public Works Future Initiatives, so we, work with our, controller to come up with a bit of a SWOT analysis. Obviously, this is not in its entirety. Just a little snapshot of some of the SWOT analysis as it applies to some of our projects for this coming year. So one of the things we identified in our SWOT analysis is the complexity of coordination and communication within the department, to and from Public Works. What was actually budgeted for March last year with the hiring of a garage admin assistant. So this year it'll be fully funded and we hope to have that position hopefully by the end of the first quarter of 2025. There's a little bit of complexity in terms of reporting and a data center for all of our information to be gathered and go to. I think the public sometimes becomes a little frustrated when maybe they're not hearing back from us, right? A complaint comes in, it goes through our system, and then the public is not kind of hearing back from us. And we don't have a place where we can gather that information from Public Works to the engineering clerk to us. So the hub at the garage will help us definitely alleviate that, as well as create a command center for creating all the work orders that we need to further better track all our work, so we can have more data to work with in terms of efficiency on our end. That position will also act as a backup support for the purchasing clerk. So when the purchasing clerk is away, there'll be someone to handle some of those day-to-day operations for them. The next thing that was identified in the SWOT analysis was the current landfill configuration and condition, and as council is aware, we've applied for some grants to help the town expand the landfill. And as you've seen in our presentation, there's additional budget dollars for the operation of landfill in order to improve its current layout and operations. The next item was we've definitely heard from the public, and I think council will agree, significant concern over obviously children's safety around our schools, which is council's aware the big school zone capital project is something that you guys were in favor of during our pre-approval process, which aligns perfectly with our safety and well-being for our community out of order. The initiatives that council wants us to make sure we focus on, and the same goes for the conditions of the back lanes. Again, during pre-approval, council was very gracious to allow us to purchase the skid steer with the Harley rig. And that you will see some additional budget dollars for grading and graveling in order to make that come to fruition.
So we know the investment on the skid steer was around $130,000, and we've already made that, which is great, and should see increased service levels for community and especially in the back lanes and around snow and stuff. Did we get a cost? Because I only remember the last cost. What is the cost of the signage?
Around $60,000.
And were we able to push back a little bit on the number of signs? Because from what I understand, some municipalities just don't follow those rules.
I would say most of them. I've been trying to be more kind of attentive when I enter different communities, and they're definitely not set up, let's say, to the letter of the law. We're going to look to see if we can double up in places where maybe there's a bit of an overlap. We're not going to do an overkill where every time you come out of the back lane, you're going to see the signs.
Yeah.
A little bit more strategic. So we're hoping to push that number down as far as we can. And by doing the work in-house, especially with some of the attachments on the skid steer for the post augers, we should be able to run through this a little bit more effectively.
So if we can tighten that number up, I mean, I think we all agree that we want to do it. It just is, if we can, if we're looking for every nickel there, let's be as tight as possible. Can you just refresh my memory, and maybe everybody else remembers already, but did we agree that we were doing a landfill in 2025, like to start it, or were we just?
All we've done is apply for the grant.
Yeah,
for the possibility to see what the dollars are available for the expansion. So nothing was ever agreed to in stone, just.
So there's no spending there this year then?
Just in terms of operations, there'll be a little bit of spending additionally for the landfill, but not anything towards any expansions or any of those things. But I think in principle, we all agree we should look at doing something.
Yeah,
but in
because
terms
you guys laid out the timeline. We have a few years in the bank yet. And this is exactly where I would not want to spend, invest a bunch of money on that this year if we didn't need to.
Back to the school zone signs. How many schools is this including? Is it including all of them, or is it
our goal is to include all of them.
even the one over on Third as well? Is that?
So I think part of the deliberation on this is to also meet with the school division to see. There is a daycare at that school.
Yeah.
So I would hate to not include it,
I think we should include all schools.
but we'll have to meet with highways because of Third Street being
Yeah,
highways, so there'll be some deliberation with them there, but it would be nice to include all of them if we can. That one's a little bit unique in terms of its layout, but there is a daycare on the side of the school.
and so if we want to do all of the schools, all in 1 year, or you would prefer to do them all in 1 year and just have it completed?
Yes.
Yeah.
That'd be our, yes.
Ideal, right?
Yeah.
So the Public Works, the next snapshot talks about the Public Works mill rate increase. So we're requesting a budget increase of almost 400,000, which is 18% over 2024, which equates to 1.85 mill rates.
I'll tell you what.
Is the owl still on?
Owls like eyes are.
Okay.
So if it's okay with council, I have some notes regarding our 2024 actuals versus budgeted before we talk too much about 2025. I want to kind of give you guys maybe a bit of background, just kind of where some of our overages and under was. So in 2024, we budgeted 2.174 million for Public Works. Our actual for 2024 came in at 2.217 million, which brought us over by $40,000. So of the $40,000 over budget, 20,000 can be contributed to the fire break along the walking path behind Traeger and Cudmore. We came to council to kind of give you guys a heads up that that was likely going to put us slightly over there. The remainder of the overage can be contributed to the outside contracts, predominantly related to the landfill, which equated to $20,000 over budget on that side as well.
Is any of that offset with landfill revenue? Like we had all that extra asbestos put in there that the insurance paid for? Is that all calculated in there as well?
Not exactly, no. That's kind of a separate area. I think the mayor made a good comment to kind of, like to see revenue dollars at the same time. So we're not really looking at the revenue here. We're just sort of looking at the dollars, but I think it's a decent.
Yeah, we have to understand the expenses, or the revenues that we generated.
Yeah. It's built in. Because public works is essentially like, it's tied directly into just general operating. All the revenue was shown on the general operating side of things, and
Yeah, I understand that. Just my thought was your budget, you were 40,000 over. Percentage wise, it was a very small percentage. And I'm sure the extra revenue that we picked up on the asbestos probably modified that. If you're looking at the financial statement, like that's how we were doing it. I know we don't exactly, but just trying to look at it through cost and where the revenue would be.
Yeah, we were definitely pleased overall with how the budget kind of played out at the end, definitely, even without the revenue numbers there.
So did you absorb the entire cost of the fire break?
Yes, sir.
How come it wasn't separated between the two departments?
I
What
don't-
was the other department that kind of asked?
Yeah, so we, and I don't know if it was just because of the change in sort of leadership, if it was sort of lost in the mix. So we were the ones that sort of orchestrated the work, and they weren't really aware of what we were doing, I guess, at the time. So we felt that we could absorb it a little bit easier than they did.
Where should it go?
Where should it go?
Yeah,
Mostly went to boulevards, I guess.
no, but again, if we're really trying to capture history, then cost should be put in a spot where the next time you do it, 5 years from now, it's put in the same spot, so you have an understanding on your history. So
There's definitely a public safety component to it. I'm not sure if that would make any sense. I see it making more sense in potentially the fire services budget line as a community protection or some sort of preemptive work. That's a good question.
well, and then if we need a line item for it, it should be identified in the budget to where it is, so and just charge against it. But I think that this situation, there was no line item for it.
Correct.
It was unbudgeted. I'm not gonna let you off that easy with your $43,000. If you look at labor, you're $150,000 over your budget versus 2024 actuals.
For wages.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna go through.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm not done. No.
Oh, I thought you were,
I appreciate that.
I thought you were patting yourself on the back there.
No, I try to take one victory there.
You know, it's a good one. Nice try.
One try, yeah. So Public Works will now go line by line. So wages to 2024 came in 58,000 under budget. Most of that is related to the unfilled position for the garage admin assistant, which we budgeted 50% of, which is about $30,000 for that position. The rest of it can be looked at as through vacancy management. We do notice an overall trend with the budget. But we had a lot of vacancies in 2024 that allowed us some breathing room, and we were able to maintain a few of the vacancies, sometimes by choice, sometimes not by choice. So that's why the wages came in under budget. So in 2025, we're asking council for 1.277, which is an increase of 93,000 over the 2024 budgeted amount. So if we look at the staff receiving a 3% increase for 2025, that equates to about 36,000. A full year of the admin assistant at the garage, which would have added additional 30,000, so that brings us to 66,000. The remainder we contributed to added wages, the landfill, as the landfill continues to age, we have to bring additional staff out there to help, manage it. So the cost of maintenance and staffing will continue to grow. So sending operators support, also challenges of being fully staffed. So with HR now in the mix, we should be seeing our staffing levels at a more appropriate level for longer periods of time. And so the turnover rates, even if we have turnover, we should be seeing those positions filled at a much faster rate than they were previously.
Did you say 30 for an admin assistant?
So we've already budgeted half
Like
of it
that
last
had to
year.
have came from last year's amount as well, and then you add in another.
Yeah.
Get to 58? Or no?
So 30 more will give us the 60 roughly thousand.
Okay.
And then another 30,000 for previous year.
Okay.
And 36,000, just the staff wages
Okay.
is up a 3% increase.
So my question, I'll go back to, there's 150,000 between 2024 actuals and 2025 budget. Which is almost a full mill rate increase, or it's almost 3/4. I guess I would like to understand for the next meeting, if we were just going to try to save that money and go for. And try to sort of get through and deliver the same level of service we're delivering this year, other than the pay increase, obviously. That's the challenge, is that. You know, we're actuals versus budget request is 150,000. And I'm trying to understand why I would spend another 150,000 in this world right now today. And I don't need the question right now, Sam, that's.
Yeah,
I think
you're
that's-
asking, is that a dead stop number? Can it be tightened at all?
Is it
Is it-
necessary? Is that, I think me and Laura have talked before, like, you budget 100 people. But through the year, you typically, and you look at your history, typically overall, you only get 90 on an average. And then you can do some full-time equivalencies where you work some overtime, that you might get 92. So when you look at that whole thing, instead of budgeting again 100, maybe you budget 95. And then you try to, and so this is where we have to look, when we look at overall for the community, what's the overall wages? And that's been spent versus actuals. And then the request, because that's what we're trying to figure out, right?
I think some of that number should be reflected too, as your employees tend to hang around. There should be efficiencies gained, which would help again offset costs, especially when we're willing to buy new equipment, make jobs a little more user-friendly or more efficient. You shouldn't need the same number of people to do the same job if the level of service is maintaining, other than, as we say, that cost of living and the cost of doing business.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's gonna be tough to get it much lower than that, but I would like a little bit of time to kind of just.
Mr. Roberts?
Just on that. Really, 120, that is probably not gonna change. The way move what you're going to have is the 30,000 for the admin assistant, the extra 30, or was there 60?
So if we look from the 2024 budget amount, or sorry, the actual amounts, we're gonna be adding 60 to that, so that brings it back to what we budgeted for. So from the budgeted 2024 to budgeted for 2025 is only 92,000.
Yeah,
And of that 92,000, 30-some thousand is just the wage increase.
but don't look at budget. You're comparing budgets to budget. You can't do that. You have to look at actuals. So you got through the year and that was the actual dollar amount you spent, which is 126,000. Then now you compare yourself to budget. Don't look at 24's budget. You look at the 25, what you're asking for. And what you're asking for is $150,000 difference than what you did in 2024.
Correct, but 60.
More than the actual, so.
But 60,000 of that is one position that we're adding at the garage for.
Well, what
so
I'm
there's this
saying
nine.
is that, you don't have that position today. So we got through 2024 without that position. Do I really want that position? If I'm really trying to put the screws to making sure I don't spend any money. I want us to come to the table to say, here's the reasons why we're doing this, and I understand what you're saying. But here's the offset, the value that the citizens are gonna see, because, if the world's really churning the way it is, and everybody gets a big increase in their expenses, and then we hit them with something else that's a nice to have through the municipality. And it's a big expense, like 1 mill rate, then that's a big deal. And so I need to understand what that for me personally, I would really like to understand those additional, especially in wages, because one of the things that you do control as managers is labor costs. And you do control it very directly because you can either have more labor and the opportunity you have is when your labor is at this level, before you add anything, you can always have that decision on whether you're gonna add any more. And that's what I'm asking is,
I guess your sales job and your end will be the efficiencies by having the admin there. How is that gonna roll?
right,
And you've already talked about it. It sounds
Yeah.
like it's gonna make a big difference for the community. So if you are hard on that, you can sell it to us. And it sounds like it's a good idea. But I mean,
I thought it was already approved, so maybe that's where I'm.
well, no, I think anything that's not in the budget. Last year, we didn't do it, and we're at a new budget, I think everything's on the table. So whether you had it last year, if you, I don't agree with all this carryover just because I put it there last year and I didn't do it. I think now is a new year, you're asking again for it, we got through it for an entire year, then just tell me why we have again, like, why we need to do that. And I don't remember us specifically calling this a maintenance clerk before, I think there might have been some administrative type of duties so. Just like with any vacancy or any time we are sitting down looking at our budget, it's a new year, it's an opportunity to really question whether we really need to do that or not. And spend that money, that's all I'm asking.
And maybe there's somewhere else we'd like you can own it down and find the money for that.
Yeah, we can squeeze every, drop we can, yeah.
And the 30,000 from last year, it's not saved. We didn't save anything. We didn't spend it.
Correct.
We didn't spend it, but we also didn't save it.
Well, we came in slightly under budget, that being part of it.
But we didn't spend it, so we didn't save it either. So I think that's where the mayor's going as well, is that just because we didn't spend it, doesn't mean we saved it and we carried over either.
Within the budget, you can spend it, you saved it.
Well, you can look at it.
I'm gonna have to talk to our control.
Well, here's how you can look at it this way. You can look at it this way, Sam. Somebody sat here and convinced council last year to spend $30,000 because all the great value we needed to do that. And you didn't do it, so where's all the value that went with that? So we've forgone all the benefits that we said this investment was gonna be there for. So what I would wanna do is relook at that, because we didn't get the benefits last year. We budgeted for it, so we might not wanna get it next year.
If somebody in the long run is what I'm getting at, still paid for it.
Right, yeah, no, that's fair. Okay, so more to come on wages. The equipment, repair and material, in 2024, we budgeted around 275,000. Actuals was 328,000. The prominent expenses in that line item come from unit 95, which is the 2000 Volvo, that at 14,000 in parts. Unit 93, which is the street sweeper, the 1990 street sweeper, 13,000 in parts. Unit 88, the 2012 garbage truck. 11,000 in parts. Unit 36, the sidewalk plow, 7. So again, just with heating equipment.
Is that an unusual year?
For the Volvo, we're sort of trending in that direction. The street sweeper, that's unusual for the street sweeper spending that much.
Do you expect to see it again happen next year?
Maybe not these exact units, but with the aging, like, yes, I guess the answer is yes, maybe not these exact same units, but with the aging.
And that's why you're asking for more money.
Yes, sir. So in 2025, we're asking for 72,000 increase over the budget. Which actually works out to 19,000, only more than the actual spend in 2024.
Yeah.
So slight increase over what our actuals were.
Yeah, so that's, I guess what we're asking the question is that if you had some expenses that come up, were they unusual expenses and one-offs? And do you think that you're gonna see repeats in 2026 or 2025? And that's why you're budgeting that higher number?
Yes, sir. Yeah. The next line item is supplies and materials. In 2024, we budgeted 182,000, and the actuals for 2024 came out to 204,000, which is an increase of 20,000 in the budget. Predominantly, this overage was resulting from cemetery runners and catch basin materials. So Public Works lowered a significant amount of catch basins, more than we sort of had budgeted for last year. Obviously, in the winter, when our operators are driving around, hitting those manholes is very dangerous and can cause significant damage to the equipment. So we did a bit of a blitz this year before the winter to make sure that we lowered some of the problem areas. And the cemetery runners as well. I mistakenly thought that was going to be a capitalized item. So that pushed our budget over by the 20,000.
Yeah, I think when we looked at the cemetery budget, I think we looked at the actual, on the last financial sheet, I think came up. And the cemetery showed that it was over budget by like $30,000. And so we assumed that it was budgeted and we, like, how did that?
I thought it was going to be capitalized. I misunderstood how much money was available in the capital account for the cemetery. I thought it was a significant number,
But did the council, I guess, was it included in our budget discussions in 2024? I can't remember, to be honest with you.
I think there was some discussion. I think there was a few residents that came and complained before the end of the year about the runners not being completed. So we were sort of directed that it was a priority item to be completed this past summer. So we kind of pushed it through to an extent, I guess. And I mistakenly thought that we had significant more budget in the cemetery than we did for the reserve account. So yeah. So the 2025 budget, we're asking for an increase of 130,000 over the 2024 budget. Most of that 130,000 are all capital projects. So we're requesting another 25,000 for further fire breaks, 65,000 for the school zone signs. So those come out of material costs. There was a Christmas/holiday decor lighting, 10,000, and then the back lane, higher derived aggregate back lane repairs that pilot project want to work on. That's 25,000 as well. That makes up for our budget request above actuals in last year.
So on those fire breaks, did we contact our insurance company and get them to come and do a safety audit of our community for free? Because I believe they do that. Yeah, I know I've talked to them before about it, like in a conference sort of thing. And I think they will come in and do a sort of a safety audit of your communities to know where you need to invest. And then we have to talk to them about lowering our rates if we invest. Which will never happen, but you can ask.
You can always ask, that's right. The next section is outside contracts. We budgeted 234,000 in 2024. The actuals for 2024 was 277,000, an overage of approximately $40,000. Those outside contracts predominantly came from the landfill site contracts, the downtown flowers, and the weed control. Those are what contributed to the
So downtown flowers weren't budgeted for?
Well, we have a 4-year contract, do we not?
Yes, they are, but the money comes from the reserve account. It's recorded as revenue, and in turn, the expense is reported as an expense.
But when you say outside contracts are over by 42,000,
It was the way it was set up in last year's budget, that it was only accounted for and then coming out of the reserves, but not the recording of the revenue and then coming out of the expenditures. Yeah.
in 2025, sorry, was there any more? Okay, in 2025, we're asking for a $297,000 budget, so that's up 63,000 from the 2024 budgeted value, but only 20,000 from the 2024 actual value. So again, landfill outside contracts, we expect to continue to rise slightly. The weed control project, the recycling center grant, 17,000. The asbestos inventory project, some of it will come from this section as well. The next line item is utilities. In 2024, we budgeted 216,000. Our actuals were 220, so up a little $4,000. In 2025, we're asking for 229,000. The majority of these increases are the street lighting for hydro, 8,000, insurance, the garage, and the garage hydro wall. Predicting to go.
Street lighting is planning to go up? The hydro cost? I thought they're freezing, or is that just residential? Yeah, I wasn't sure if it's for just residential or. I know the provincial government made some announcement, but I don't know.
Maybe that. Recently.
Yeah,
The next item is landfill closure liability. So fairly little budget there. In 2025, we're asking for 75,000. That's an increase of 24,000. These are based on recommendations from our auditor and closure cost estimates that we've received from previously JRCC and WSP are sort of a little bit all over the map. We've been recommending to increase our closure liability to be ready by the time comes to close it. Next one is office supplies and equipment. We budgeted 15,900, we only spent 4,400, 4,500. And we're asking for 14,650. The 5-year trend for these supplies, they kind of go up and down a little bit, is approximately 13,000 and some change. So we believe our ask is well within what we will be.
so what is that, like, what would you need in there to get 10 more grand next year? What do you plan on spending?
I haven't delved into that $9,000 at a high level yet, I would say. I looked at the 5-year trends for that account. It sort of kind of goes up and down, but trends into the 13,000-ish range. So we believe that bringing our ask down slightly over last year brings it back into that 5-year sort of spend. Next line item is training. Budgeted 9,100, and we spent 2,800. We're asking in 2025 again for 9,100. We believe now that we have HR in place specifically, we believe that these training dollars will be more properly allocated and ensuring that we take a greater interest to ensure our staff are being trained accordingly. So we do believe that we can be spending the majority of that funds in 2025. There is advertising. We budgeted 6,300 and only spent 47 and some change. We are asking for 8,300 in 2025. That is in line with requesting of the holiday staff party for the staff. That's the slight increases based on that plus. Besides the wages, or are there any further questions?
In the training, does that also include the two of you, or are you in the HR portion? Okay.
Next set of slides are regarding the utility department, future initiatives. So during our SWOT analysis, obviously the aging sewer and water infrastructure is identified as a significant risk. So we're asking to increase the amount of money going to the reserve and related budget items that are related to the infrastructure, especially the sewer and water infrastructure. Our service delivery for sewer auditing, televising is incomplete. So we're looking at revamping the process. This is not going to cost the taxpayers anything. This is just a better service we provide. This is something we barely touched on during our QIC meeting, our first QIC meeting. And once we sort of have all the i's dotted and t's crossed, we'll bring back sort of that to council as a whole to kind of discuss a little further. Another discussion or concern we have is the water treatment plant limitations. So currently we have a water treatment plant assessment going on, which is a carryover from 2024 into 2025. We're hoping that by the end of that assessment report, we're currently in a draft stage of the report, that we can identify some of these limitations in terms of planning and development. If we're looking to build an apartment or a subdivision, can we sustain it? Can we maintain it? So all this information will come forth through this report. And we'll speak a little bit more about that after. And again, just aging equipment, we're asking to increase the budget dollars. And we would like to create a new 10-year plan for replacement of equipment. Last time we did that's been several years now, so we think a new equipment replacement plan would be appropriate to bring back to council, especially in light of the potential budget constraints. I think I don't think you have to worry about bringing the loader back for 2025.
I was told that last week that there's, I want to say thousands, but it might have been hundreds of actual shovel-ready water sewer projects sitting ready to go and submitted to the water services boards already. Hundreds or like lots. There's like a backlog of like $2 billion or something.
Yeah, they ask every year that we submit some project ideas to them. We've tried to submit as many as we can, but in terms of the realistic nature of it, it's tough, but yeah. So utility department mill rate, we're asking for a budget increase of approximately 12%, $328,000. 2024 budget. This does not affect the mill rate as it's paid through utility billing.
Just a question on the water treatment plant. Our capacity, where are we? Put out and like to service the community?
I think we're in a better place than we have been previously. I think the crews have done a good job identifying water breaks and finding some ones that have been lingering for some time. If we go into a catastrophic event, we see we're sort of limited in what we can provide. All I have really is anecdotal sort of situations where I would say we put like a 12 to 16 hour reservoir sort of span, right? So if we weren't able to make any water startup, depending on the peak time, somewhere between in the 12-hour range, we would run.
I guess in an emergency, you could bypass the filtration, or not the filtration, but the adding chemicals, keep the reservoirs pumped up and send it out boil water advisory and all that.
Correct, and we also have 2 fire wells on either end of town that if we needed to bring into service to maintain fire suppression, let's say if our deep well collapsed and we couldn't bring water in from the river, we have the ability to add from the fire reservoirs to maintain fire protection. And in discussions with OCN, they've offered, we've discussed piping something over the bridge to the hospital if we had to do like an emergency water supply just for the hospital. The counterpart is more than happy to discuss, how we'll be able to do that with it.
That's probably should be a written plan, actually.
Yeah, it was actually interesting. We thought about shutting all the valves around the hospital and then feeding the hydrant outside the hospital directly from our neighbors.
Yeah.
Not to scare anybody in the public, but yeah, it's.
So Sam, just to be clear though, the 12% increase doesn't impact the mill rate, but still impacts the citizens of the community.
Correct.
So I don't want us to downplay the cost increase on the utility because we don't think it impacts mill rate.
No, that's a very good point. So the utility budget in 2024, we budgeted 2.7 million. Our actuals were 2.75 million, which put us $50,000 over budget. Predominantly, these dollars went into a reserve allocation, and because of we still have some closeout fees and costs from Water Services Board. There's some additional work that we're working with them on, some warranty things that are sort of lingering. So they've sent us a few bills for their engineering work and time over that whole process. So that's where those additional dollars went. In 2025, we're asking for 3.04 million. which is an increase of approximately 300,000 over the 2024 budgeted amount. This 300,000 is captured in additional reserve allocations, supplies and materials, reserve allocations of additional 100,000, supplies and materials of 129,000, equipment, 49,000, and utility costs of approximately 12,000.
So then why were chemicals under budget by $100,000?
I have a good story to tell.
Good.
So the first line item is wages. In 2024 budget 863. The actuals were 886. We were over by 23,000. In 2025, we're asking for 880. Trends in the wages are going up. However, we do experience ups and downs. So the 5-year trends show a little bit lower than that. So we're increasing a little bit over the budgeted value, but not less than the actual of 2024, because we believe it's going to sort of level itself off slightly in 2025. The next line is reserve allocations. End of 2024.
Yeah, I didn't know,
Okay.
I downloaded, right, my notes.
Sorry,
So,
okay, yeah. Reserve allocations, we budgeted 400,000. But we actually were 465, as was sort of discussed at the front end. In 2025, we're asking for 500,000. Putting more money in the reserves will help us with future upgrades for the water plant, the distribution system itself. Also, we need to have monies available if we're wanting to plan for future development areas for new sewer water lines. Or even conducting any necessary feasibility studies. I know there's some appetite to be shovel ready for a subdivision, or if someone comes to town. That takes money in the bank, that takes dollars available for feasibility, but also for the infrastructure to be built that might be needed. So that's why we're requesting that. Chemicals is the next line. We budgeted 250, spent 250 approximately. So we're in line with our budget. We're asking for an increase to 283 for 2025, which is approximately 33,000. We're already seeing increased chemical costs coming into 2025. There was also $25,000 in alum costs at the lagoon that we did not spend in 2024. So right now, because our wastewater treatment plant is a little bit newer, we're budgeting for those alum expenses, and as the wastewater treatment plant creates more sludge, there will come a time where the alum dosing will be required. Right now, we're sort of on the precipice of maybe that happening. They were surprised that we kind of even made it this year without having to dose. So we expect that maybe there'll be some alum dosing in 2025. So we just want to kind of keep that money there just in case that it's necessary.
On the lagoon, how often you get it dredged out? Is there a life?
So when our previous lagoon, I think, was well past due getting dredged. Their early predictions was 10 to 15 years on the new system. So we're around 4 years in now, 3-4 years in. So we're probably 6 to 10 years from having to dredge again. Luckily for us, the company that does the dredging, one of the companies that does dredging is hired by the mill as well to dredge their lagoons. So when we get to a point where we'll do some testing for depths, then we can determine what that's. And also the system itself, in terms of our results, will tell us when it's getting close to time to dredge. The next item is supplies and materials. 2024 budget 182,000. Unfortunately, our actuals were 223, so we were over by 41,000. The largest contributing factor to this are water main repairs, and basically was the entirety of the overage. So in the 2025 budget, we're asking for 310, which is an increase of 129,000 over the 2024 budget. And the 5-year trend is sort of forcing our hand in that direction. Also, part of that increase we're asking for, so new water meters will account for 29,000. Water repairs 50,000. Water house connections 10,000. Lagoon materials 5,000. Deep well 9,000. Hydrants 13,000. Wastewater being 4,000. Wastewater house connections 3,000.
How much did you say for the heat pump?
9,000.
Again, how often does that have to get cleaned out?
Uh, 3 times a year is probably decent. It depends on how much, the spring is the worst time, when you have all the runoff coming off the banks of the river.
That's just pumped out the sludge?
Yeah, we pump it down. We have to send someone down there to clean it out. We have to remove some of the sediment ourselves just to save our pumps from getting too much damage. Some of these works are also gonna, the roof's in kind of bad shape, so there's some shingling and some repairs to the roof of the deep well, as well as some of our lift stations that we'd like to do as well. The next one is the debenture. So those are in line, nothing really changing there. And the debenture is for obviously the lagoon upgrades. The next line is utilities. In 2024, we budgeted 430,000. We only spent 341,000, so we're under by 89,000. That entirety of that savings is related to only using the boiler for part of 2024. So as most of you are aware, or all of you are aware, we have a boiler that heats the water in the harsh winter months. That goes into our system. As part of our large capacity assessment, we're looking at trying to cut that boiler out altogether for its use. We're trying to make sure that obviously before we do that, we have all our ducks in a row. So we're still in 2025 wanting to budget that dollar to have it available in case we do need to turn it on. And based on how our budget went last year, even if those dollars aren't eaten up there, they'll be eaten up sort of elsewhere anyway. So in 2025, we're asking for 442,000, which is an increase of 12,000 over the 2024 budgeted value.
By not heating there for using it for a month, did you notice any more water breaks on average? Were they up or?
I think we're still trending the same.
Okay.
The only pushback that may come, and I'm sort of speculating only on this one, it's a water conservation sort of thing, right? So instead of running the boiler, if we're just bleeding water, financially that makes perfect sense to us, but maybe the government may not feel the same way. So we just have to make sure that our process to them says very clearly the amount. We're still running bleeders when we're running the boiler anyway. So there's no change in that.
When you didn't run the boiler for a month, did you more liters?
No, it stayed the same.
Oh, okay.
So we actually, the boiler didn't run for roughly 2 months. So it's a significant expense to the utility. So we want to continue to budget for the boiler use until the water plant assessment report is finalized. And some of the additional increases that we're seeing in that budget line is regarding insurance and hydro. They're going to account for those overages that we're asking. Equipment replacement and repair. 2024 budget value was 212, where the actual was 244. So we were over by 32,000. The entirety of that 32,000 was the Vactor rentals that we were dealing with. We are still having a little bit of trouble with our Vactor, unfortunately. So we do predict to see some additional Vactor rentals we already have into 2025. So we're asking for 261,000 in 2025, which is 49,000 over the budgeted amount of 2024. So the Vactor rental being predominant cause, and also just aging equipment in general. Outside contracts, 2024 budgeted 66,000. The actuals came in at 37,000 or 29,000 under budget. I would attribute this being the expertise of our chief plant operator. So we're doing a lot more repairs in house and we're using a lot less outside contracts. So I don't want him to know that because I don't want to pump his tires too much, but he's definitely the reason behind the budget. 2025, we're asking for 54,000. So it's less than our 2024 budget amount, but it does align better with our overall trends. Also, the asbestos inventory part of that project will fall into this because the water treatment plant will be one of the facilities, including the deep well lift stations, which we have multiple, and the firewalls as well. And the last part is the office supplies and equipment. Budgeted about 5,000, spent 3,700. And we're asking for slightly less in 2025. Again, just looking at a 5-year trend, we think that would be appropriate.
No, not.
So you had mentioned for the hydrants, you're budgeting 13,000? How many hydrants?
13,000 over the previous budget,
30,000 for just the fire hydrant.
13,000 above the previous budget. Yeah,
And what was the previous budget?
27,
pull that up.
is it not?
So 40?
27 or
Yeah, so something that, I'm glad you actually brought up the hydrant thing. We sat down, we had a pretty good meeting with the CAO and the fire department. I think we realized we have to sort of do a bit of a stronger approach on some of our hydrants. We're aware that some of them, maybe gave some challenges to the fire department, during one of the fires. We have records of all of them being pumped out and everything being sort of looked after during our flushing program. What I believe happened is sort of an anomalous situation is that we had a significant freeze thaw several times this winter, which is very sort of unique. So we suspect that maybe some of that freeze thaw cycle caused some of the issues with those hydrants to be frozen. To me, that made things a little bit more challenging. So we've sort of promised the CAO, for lack of a better term, to come up with a plan to start tackling some of the issues we have with the hydrants. Also, I think next year we may approach the fire department to look for an increase maybe in our hydrant rental fee. Since I've been here in town 10 years, it's been sitting at $26,000. That fee's been very stagnant. Perhaps even looking at increasing that amount and then contracting out that work, for 3, 4, 5 replacements every year. Whatever we didn't determine necessary. So we're working on a bit of a spreadsheet in terms of what hydrants are in sort of what condition, and then sort of looking backwards with the fire department to kind of do a replacement inventory list.
Isn't speaking with the fire chief, there's approximately a dozen fire hydrants currently not served. That's the number I was given, so 40,000, is that gonna be enough to deal with all that?
So one hydrant assembly is around $7,500, if I recall correctly. So 7,500, you look 15,000 for 2 hydrant assemblies, 4 for 30,000. That's not including the man hours, but the man hours are sort of already budgeted within our budget. Replace, 3 or 4 a year, I think should be our minimum. I'll give Public Works credit, they have repaired quite a bit above ground. But some of them are in really bad shape that definitely need to be replaced. So once we create an inventory list, we'll work backwards with the fire chief to kind of address for the priority areas back, I guess.
So if there's a dozen, if that number's accurate, and you're talking 3 to 4 a year, some of them will be 3 years of being out of service or not as a good service as they could be.
Just depends on what's wrong with them.
Yeah, some of them were able to pull the guts out of them from above ground to do a quick little repair, put new parts in, everything's good. Some of them, the valves are broken. I don't know if you saw the one by Michael's, that one has a bunch of Band-Aids on it. That one's a little bit trickier because the light posts, the traffic lights are there. So you have to get Beach Electric to come and disconnect all the light posts. So that's, I think, $2,500 to $3,000 just to have them come do that work. So it can get pretty expensive. I mean, that's not an excuse not to do them, but
You're just following the trend line there, so you have 12 that are out. Ideally, it'd be nice to have them all 12 running, operational. The fact that we know they're not working and something happens, and we know that one's not working, we go to another one, because you never know if they turn it on.
yeah.
Then you've got 2 in the area, and then you keep going out from the point where you need it, but have an issue. And the fact that we know about it, we have to be a priority to find out what's wrong and get them fixed.
Yeah, we were told by the CEO that that's a priority for 2025.
I do want to say over the past 7 years, you have replaced a lot and done a lot of repairs, because there was a time where you were missing a significant number. So hearing you're only at 12. Not bad.
It might be a bit of a
You're
generous
doing a
word
good,
from the fire chief, so I thank you for
you're
that.
doing a good
I
job
thank him
in
for
terms
that.
of slowly getting to the
Yeah.
point where maybe we will get it 0.
Yeah, no, I think we have to continue to make those strides in that direction yet.
It looks like you get a free one by the grub box, so that's a bonus.
We're not sure about the free part yet, but it's.
So.
If I can answer correctly, so we just have to budget for the job, that was it.
Well, I'm
No.
not speaking for myself, but I mean, to me, 3 years is a long time to look at working fire hydrant. I'm glad to hear the numbers come down, but it's still a long time. If I was living next to that hydrant, I wouldn't be very happy.
So there are certain requirements for minimum spatial distances from a hydrant to the property. So there may be one out in one section, but there may be one adjacent to the property. So, but I totally hear what you're saying. Yeah,
The visual of it isn't good.
correct.
If we could, you know, between now and the snow is all gone, just get 12 hydrants. Okay, what's wrong with each hydrant? Determine that, I guess, but you don't know what, if you're gonna have to spend $7 grand or if you're gonna have to spend $1,000. Depending on what the issue is.
Yeah.
So that's gonna take some investigation. Once you find out, then you can come back and say, here we are. You get it before budget is finalized. Well, it's not likely you're gonna get the time to do that now.
We do have some inventory. I know we have some inventory of fire hydrants. So knowing that we can purchase at least 2 or 3 more plus what we have in inventory, I think we can make a good dent in those repairs this year. And if some of them are above ground repairs, it's even easier.
Okay, so I mean, we're getting a little bit into the details of how many hydrants we're fixing, but
Okay.
I mean, if you can put that into plan and I guess council's, you know, wants to make sure that all the equipment that we have here in the community is being serviced and maintained as required. I gotta, I'll just wait till you're done. I got a couple of comments I want to make. No, when you're done, the reserve accounts and so.
I've just highlighted the main reserve accounts on the next slide here for you guys to see. So it would be the opening balance in 2025, everything we're projecting to go into those accounts, whether it's from tax allocations, interest earned or other revenue. Funds out are,
Stop.
they-
Speak over.
I'm gonna turn the heat
Oh,
on
okay.
for
the funds out are from our capital projects that were brought forward earlier in December. And then showing the closing balance for council to see where they would be sitting.
Yeah, I guess we as council will have to really have a look to make sure we're putting enough money into reserves, and we have enough money stuck away for futures. So something to think about anyways. Some of them are just based on tax dollars, you know, funds, you know, when you look at destination marketing, there's an accommodation tax, so it doesn't have anything to really do with taxpayers, but the other ones do.
Like I say, priority, don't diminish them.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely, yeah, I think if we are gonna spend some money somewhere, putting more money away for the future is important. Which sort of, I don't know if we need to go through the mill rate stuff because it's so early.
I think it's gonna change.
Yeah.
quite a bit, so maybe just-
But I just wanna make it maybe a bit of a closing comment, is that, and just as some of the notes, and I know we haven't seen the other presentations similar to these ones. And let me, hats off to Sam and Jomar, he had lots of background and information to support some of the variances. But I would make a comment that, you know, just in labor costs versus in those budgets that we looked at today, there's $850,000 additional money gonna be spent in 2025 than we actually spent in 2024. And that's just in those accounts alone. If you look at the last presentation we had, that was base budget to budget, there was a $750,000 ask at that point, just in wages. So again, I'm not comparing apples to apples, but if I'm looking at actuals to budget, just $850,000, almost 4 mill rates. If I look at the fire department request, you know, 3 mill rates there. If I look at the RCMP, that's another 3/4 of a mill rate. And then if I look at, you know, so there's a lot of asks this year, or a lot of money that I really think we need to really dig in deep to make sure that we're willing to, or we're really sold on going forward with a 10% increase in salary and wages. Or in, sorry, wages, in taxes, to our municipality. But I also wanna say is that if we do, when we're looking at our budget, if we are doing things and we have benefits of doing them and it's saving money, it should be backed out of the budget. So if we are doing things that are creating benefits, hiring more trainers, gonna get more revenue. You know, doing this, we're gonna save more money over here. That all has to be backed out of the budget so that we're not double counting. Do you understand what I'm saying? You guys, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, if you're,
Yeah, so I guess my challenge to the, if council wants to add, but my challenge is that, you know, just this afternoon, for $850,000 increase on actuals based on wages alone. That's a big pill to swallow. And we really need to understand what life was like in 2024 and what we're trying to change in 2025 to justify that expense.
maybe Sam's gonna rent that, get that scissor lift, rent it out every other day.
Yeah.
Could be a good generate, hey, it could be a good revenue stream.
For sure.
So that's all I had. Again, appreciate everything that's been done so far. I know we're throwing a little bit of a curveball at you, but you know, we really want to make sure that we have a good plan to sell to our community members when it's time to come. Motion to adjourn, Councillor Hopper. All in favor? All right, perfect. Thanks, guys.